they discovered, they had studies. They're like, wow, why is this alkaline water so amazing? We can see it scientifically. Why is it amazing? And I'll tell you why it was. They were looking at the wrong thing. When you make alkaline water through ionization, you inadvertently by accident make some hydrogen.
Welcome to the Success Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Christian Evans. This podcast is for adults who want to achieve success in their fitness journey. And our special guest today, Greg, the Hydrogen Man, will help us do just that by helping us understand the benefits of hydrogen water, if it helps you lose weight or not, and if it's better than alkaline water. Without further ado, Success Fitness family, please welcome Greg, the Hydrogen Man. How you doing today?
Very good. Nice to meet you, Christian.
Good. So the burning question I have right now off the top of my head, how did you get the name Greg, the Hydrogen Man?
That was actually given fondly by my viewers. They were like, man, you're the Hydrogen Man. I mean, I know so much about hydrogen, and there's so many things that to date I know people don't even know. I mean, I created like the best protocols. I've been educating on hydrogen on my YouTube channel for many years. But yeah, I'm a hydrogen fanatic. If you really understand how amazing it is, like even if you think about the stars in the heavens, what are they made of? Made of hydrogen, you know? And I mean, even if you get a little spiritual, you know, what did they use to find Jesus? Well, the wise men followed the Magi, as they called them, followed a star. So they followed hydrogen, you know? And there's so many other things about hydrogen. That's more on the spiritual front, but I mean, there's so many applications for it. So yeah, it's exciting. And that's why they call me the Hydrogen Man. I love all things hydrogen. Okay.
So how did you get into hydrogen? What was it? Was it a science project that got you really pumped up about it? Or was it something a little bit more personal? And if so, you know, what was it? How did you get into it?
So basically I was extremely sick and I shouldn't even technically be alive right now. And it was very debilitating, my illness. It was screwing up my life. I basically lost everything. And I was trying to find an answer for my solution. And I was reading a lot of scientific data. I'm not real fond. I don't listen to, you know, I know doctors have their opinions, but there's a lot of stuff because I worked in the medical field for over 2 decades. And a lot of the doctors, what I've learned, are really not up to date on the latest science or the latest data. I found numerous things that doctors don't know about. And even today, now I actually educate doctors on a lot of new technologies and new information. And so I work with a lot of doctors. And so basically what ended up happening is I found data about hydrogen, scientific data for medical conditions. And I was really shocked by it. In fact, when I first started reading about it, I literally thought it was a scam. I thought this can't be real. Hydrogen is too good to be true. And usually when something's too good to be true, it's usually not true, you know?
Right.
And this was one of those. Hydrogen is so unbelievable that it does definitely seem to be too good to be true. And so I read about the data. I read about it for almost 4 years before ever even considering trying it. And then once I considered trying it, I realized that it was so difficult to understand the best way to use it, really the best way to make it. I didn't realize that making it in different ways could have potential dangers. So all I'll say is, you know, I don't give any medical advice. I don't make any medical claims. I always like to get that out of the way. But what I will say is that I learned all the intricacies and it took me years to figure it all out, even to the point where I actually created the protocols that have now shown scientifically to work better than anything there is out there. So my protocols are, not to toot my own horn, but they're the best ones that show to be most effective in scientific studies. And ultimately, that's kind of how I learned about it. And I became very passionate about it and it changed my life. And then it started changing other people's lives, like my father, who had unfortunately suffered from things like arthritis, blood pressure issues, cholesterol issues, glaucoma, diabetes. And it was so unbelievable what I saw it doing that I just thought, oh my God, the world needs to know about this. And so that's kind of how the whole ball got rolling. And I just educated myself.
So when you were sick and you decided to, okay, I need to do my own, you know, research, how did you get pushed into the direction of hydrogen? Because there's a lot of different ways you could have possibly went or, you know, took more of a deep dive into. What was it about hydrogen that stood out to you that made you want to research more and more just on that specific?
Well, I will say that hydrogen wasn't the only subject that I was researching. I was trying to understand the human body and look at it from a very different perspective than just about anybody I know. But I wanted scientific evidence. This is not to poo-poo people online. The frustrating part is I used to watch podcasts also, and you'd have one guy saying one thing and then somebody else saying something different. Like one guy would say, no, you should eat nothing but meat. Then you got another guy says, no, you should eat nothing but raw food. And then you got somebody else says, no, drink alkaline water. No, no, this water's better. And so there was so much contradictory information that it became very frustrating. And what I told myself in my little internal voice and in my heart, I was like, you know what? Instead of listening to people, I'm going to go to the data. I'm going to look at scientific evidence. I'm going to look at what really, really works. I'm going to look at short-term data, long-term data. I'm going to look at everything. And then I'm going to basically create my own protocols, which I ended up doing. And I found them obviously to be very effective. And I have different protocols. You know, I modify them depending on what the person, because some people have their own ideas about what's best. And so, you know, I have to modify them depending on the individual and stuff like that. But that's how it all kind of got rolling. But again, although hydrogen is my specialty, I know a lot about other things in regards to health too.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what was the illness that you suffered from, and how did your research put you onto the right path to help, what I want to say, cure, or just put you on the right path to healing?
Yeah, so I had multiple issues. I had a heart condition that was really nasty. In fact, doctors told me that I'd be lucky to have another 10 years. And they said I needed open heart surgery. I had really bad inflammation. I guess you could call it arthritis, but I had inflammation all over my body that was so bad that I literally couldn't pick up a remote control and change the channel on a television. My joints hurt that bad. I was bedridden. I couldn't even walk. And I also had a lot of gut issues and like an autoimmune issue that was causing a lot of this inflammation that was going on. My liver and my kidneys were not optimal. I didn't have like a serious liver disease, but they definitely weren't firing on all cylinders. And so I had a lot of those issues. And then I did have tumors in my body. So I had a few different types of tumors in different places in my body. So that was definitely not good. And just a lot of pain, a lot of inflammation. Things just felt like, literally I felt like a 120-year-old man. It hurt. Everything hurt so bad. And things were just not running right. My immune system was absolute trash. That was another problem I had. I would get sick at a drop of a hat. It would take me typically a month to get over the common cold. And then sometimes I'd get over it, and within a week I'd catch another cold all over again. And it'd be like another month, a month and a half. And it was brutal. It was a very, very low, terrible time in my life. And I never thought that I would get out of it. It's horrible.
Now, how long did, I guess, that last from like this, from start to, I don't want to say finish, but my definition of finish is when you say, you know what, enough is enough. I got to take my health and my life into my own hand. How long were you just suffering from that?
It was years. It was a long time.
Oh, okay. I got you.
It started gradual. So it started gradual, and me being a guy, I was like, whatever, you know, I'm not going to do anything about it. I can push through it, right? I'll modify my life.
Right.
You know? And so I kind of worked through it, but then it got so bad to the point where when you can't walk, I mean, it was nasty. It was so bad that then that's when I couldn't even work anymore. I lost, you know, my home and my job, and, you know, it ruined my life. It literally ruined my life.
And so at what point did you say, I'm going to take my life into my own hands and do my own research and try to figure something out? Because I want to live. I want to feel better. At what point in time in that journey did that kind of pop in your head and said, okay, you know what? I got to do what's best for me?
I still remember the moment very vividly. I was on this couch, and that's when I went to go pick up. I actually wanted to play a video game. I was like, I'm bedridden. I'm sitting here. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to play a video game. And I couldn't, because my joints hurt so bad. I literally couldn't play a video game. So I went to go turn on the TV. I guess I'll just watch TV. And that's when I literally couldn't. It hurt so bad. I was propping up the remote like this, and I was trying to use the leverage of the weight of my hand. And then I started crying. I mean, I used to be an athlete. So I used to be like athletic, really good shape. I wasn't used to being like this. And so it really bothered me. And at that point, I broke down. I was crying. I'll start crying right now, just remembering, because it was I prayed, and that's what we do sometimes when we're at our low point. And I prayed, and I was just like, I asked God, I said, look, if you can guide me, if you can help me find what it takes to bring health to this body, I said, I promise that if you help me, I promise that I will share with others, because I know there's other people in the world suffering. So many people have so many medical issues. It's absolutely insane. And I know, I mean, like I said, I worked in the field. I know the level of medications and suffering that people are, dealing with in the world. And so I made that prayer with all my heart, and I never thought that it would lead to this. But I mean, it led me to discovering not just hydrogen, but all the protocols that I'm doing. But hydrogen is the most powerful, magical thing I've ever seen. And when I saw how life-changing it was, I was like, man, the world needs to know about this. And I've literally been preaching it for, God, like a decade. I mean, I've been talking about it for a long time. And yet I've been learning as I go, because there's still more information about hydrogen that comes out. And I become more and more of an expert. And I've modified the protocols. I've created ones that nobody ever thought of, which everybody seems to copy now. So all these supposed doctors and professionals out there are literally copying my protocols that I created in the world of hydrogen. And I just think it's too important. I think the world needs to know, and I think it's special.
Now I'm going to ask you a little bit more about hydrogen, but before I do that, I want to ask you, can you define protocols? Yeah, I've heard you say that several times so far in this podcast when you say, we have protocols. What does that mean? What is a protocol? There's variations. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, because when you're going to try to embark on a journey and be like, hey, I want to get rid of my diabetes, or I want to make my fitness on a whole other level, or whatever it is that you want to do, you have to use things in a certain way. And you have to do, so like, for example, let's talk about, I don't know, this is a silly one, but let's talk about a protocol on how to clean your water, right? And I have lab reports right here. I got a third-party lab testing. I got pages of what's in our water, or whatever. So here's the deal. I have protocols on how to clean your water. I have protocols on how much water you should drink and when you should drink it and how you should do it. I have protocols on how you should use hydrogen, because depending on what you're dealing with depends on how you're going to use the hydrogen. I have different dietary protocols. I don't typically talk a lot about diet because there's so many arguments about it. It's like talking about politics.
Right.
It's that crazy. So I tend not to talk a lot about diet. But hydrogen, everybody can benefit from the cleanest water in the world, and anybody can benefit from the cleanest, best hydrogen in the world. So that goes for everybody. You can't dispute the fact that people want clean water and clean hydrogen. I mean, those two things right there are just, there is no arguing, those points. And so that's what I mean, different protocols, how you would carry out your actions. And let's say you're somebody who leaves your house and goes to work 8 to 10 hours a day and you're away from your hydrogen machine, for example, then your protocol might have to be modified because you're away from the machine. Because sometimes you want to inhale the hydrogen gas, but you can't inhale it if you're at work and the machine's at home. So we modify, things depending on the needs of people.
I got you. I want to ask you a little bit more about that, but going back to the initial question I was going to ask you is what does it do to your body? What are some of the benefits that hydrogen does for your body? You can name off 3. Let's just start with 3, because I know you have probably 100,000 or whatever. Let's just start with the 3 benefits, 3 best benefits that hydrogen does for the body.
Probably the biggest ones is, 1, it's been shown to function as an anti-inflammatory, natural anti-inflammatory.
Yeah. So
that's really good. Yep. Second, it's been shown to accelerate recovery time by about triple the speed from what I've seen, which is amazing. So for athletes and things of that nature. It also, the way that it protects the body. So what I mean by protects, it's so unbelievable. My video number 8, I have my videos numbered. On video number 8, I show cells that are being exposed to like radiation or chemotherapy and how it destroys your cells. Like it destroys like 90% of your cells. When you use hydrogen and they do the exact same test, and you can see the footage, the lab footage in my video, it protects 90% of those cells. And that is a huge game changer. So they've used hydrogen, and I've seen it myself with my own eyes. People who undergo chemotherapy, or the thing is that all humans are being exposed to nasty stuff these days. We have so much stuff in our food, whether it's massive amount of chemicals, We get exposed to crazy stuff in our water. If I were to show you the lab reports I have on water, you wouldn't even believe what's in our water. There's no wonder people are sick. There's a reason that I show people how to truly purify water, not your average filter, by the way. And the good news is not expensive, but there's a way to truly purify water, and most people do not do the correct method. And I have the scientific evidence to prove it. And so those are just kind of the main things, but hydrogen also opens up what's called ghost vessels. It's actually a medical term that most people don't know about. And that is awesome because this is a huge thing. Do you know about ghost vessels?
No. Explain
so you'll love
Explain
this.
it. I'm all ears. Go for it.
So let's take an example. Have you ever seen a little baby, right? And the little babies are all like plump and they're hydrated. Their skin is hydrated. You can tell that they're just full of water, right? And they're really warm too. So have you ever seen like a little toddler running around in a diaper and they're just not cold? And then you see an elderly person. Now the elderly person looks more dehydrated and they're usually cold and they're like, what's going on? So this is what's going on. We have veins in our body, like blood vessels, and blood flow is everything. If you were to watch my video 68, which is unbelievable. I had a doctor tell me that what I was shown was impossible. And they ended up doing the same study and proved that I was right, that it is possible and that the hydrogen done a certain way does do this. It increases the blood flow, all right, which is key for health. And so basically what's happening is hydrogen appears to open up ghost vessels, which as you get older, so this is what happens. As you get older, you have literally blood vessels where the blood doesn't go into anymore. So it's like a ghost town. Yes.
Okay.
And so you're not getting proper blood to the proper areas. And remember, blood carries nutrients. You want them to get in these areas to bring the nutrients to your flesh, to your body, right? And so basically hydrogen has been shown to open up ghost vessels again. And so it begins to open up again, start pushing the blood in, bring the nutrients, better blood flow. Hydrogen is literally shown to increase core body temperature. I have images from a medical center in Japan where they use actually the same equipment I use. I only use the best. I'm not into cheap stuff from China. And so the equipment that I use, then there's a reason that you want to do the best. But basically in this particular clinic, they were doing thermoimaging. So they were showing how the hydrogen helps increase the blood flow, which has an effect on body temperature and core body temperature. And you might find this interesting. The Japanese discovered that 97 to 98% of all cancer patients, so almost all of them, their core body temperature is lower than it should be. So there is a correlation between core body temperature and cancer. And so you want to be warm. You want your body to have the blood moving. And so it's really important, and hydrogen appears to also help with that. And countless other things, but I won't go into them right now. But there's some cool stuff. I could tell you one more if you want, but it's whatever you want.
Go ahead.
So this is one of the ones that I find really exciting. Hydrogen is approved already in Japan, medically. So it's the real deal. And one of the things that it's approved for is strokes. So this is really interesting about a stroke. Let's say you have a stroke, okay, and you're not getting proper blood supply to a part of your brain. Now, if you don't restore blood supply to that part of the brain, it's going to die, and it's going to die quickly. You can't survive without blood going to a certain area. That's why if you cut the blood off to your hand, eventually it goes numb and then eventually starts turning purple, and you're going to lose your hand and you'll die. So in Japan, what they discovered is that if they put you on hydrogen gas inhalation, so they have it in some of their ambulances. So somebody has a stroke, they're not getting proper blood supply, they send an ambulance, they immediately put you on hydrogen gas. That hydrogen gas goes straight to your brain. And here's where it gets crazy, Christian. The brain stays alive without blood. So hydrogen is like the life molecule. And that's what we need, because life is what brings healing. Life is what brings energy. You want that life in you. And so it keeps the blood, it keeps that part of the brain alive. They're even using it for organ transplants now too. But anyway, basically, once you restore the blood supply to the proper part of the brain, people basically make a full recovery. So it's been a game changer for people with strokes.
That's amazing.
And so it's amazing, man. I'm telling you, it's so amazing. I love it.
Now, you mentioned earlier about a machine, right?
Yes.
And that leads into my next question of how is hydrogen, I guess I say like applied? Is it, through drinking? You mentioned inhalation. How is it applied? I'm not even sure the exact word, but again, help me out. How is somebody supposed to receive? There you go. How is it administered? You got it. How is it
Okay.
administered?
So there's a few different ways to do it, but the easiest and, in my opinion, most affordable, the best way to do it basically without having to go to a hospital all the time or a clinic where they stick an IV in you or something, is there's a piece of equipment so making hydrogen you can make hydrogen relatively easily, but it's not going to be pure. So one of the biggest things that most people don't understand is the difference between what I would call medical grade and non-medical grade. So just to explain that real quickly. Yeah, well, I'll explain it. I'll explain it real simply. This is how simple it is.
Gotcha.
Let's see. So remember, hydrogen is a gas, okay? Molecular hydrogen. And we're talking about molecular hydrogen. There are other types of hydrogen. The research is based on molecular hydrogen. And I go off the data. Remember, I don't go off of hearsay or people's opinions. I go off of data. And this is the stuff that's medically approved. So let's say you go to a hospital. In hospitals, they have oxygen tanks, right? If you happen to need oxygen. That oxygen in a hospital is medical grade. If you go to some welding center where they do welding, they have oxygen tanks too. That is not medical grade oxygen. What's the difference? Purity. Purity is the difference between medical grade and non-medical grade. You do not want to be inhaling from some oxygen tank that's not pure. Okay. Gotcha. In the world of hydrogen, nobody talks about this. Literally nobody. I'm like the only guy because in America, people just don't seem to understand this. Medical grade is important. You want high purity because otherwise, in my opinion, you can begin to cause problems, right? If you're consuming something that's not pure, it's not going to be good for you. Just like water. If it's got a bunch of fluoride and a bunch of crap in it, it's not going to be good for you, right? In my opinion. So the device that I use it's very difficult to make medical grade hydrogen. Back in the day, it used to be extremely expensive. You probably would have never had a chance of doing it. You probably would have needed a lab to really make good stuff. Thank God for this Japanese guy. There's a guy in Japan who actually was in charge of he decided to make this device mostly for his daughter. His story is unbelievable. His daughter was born with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. He knew hydrogen would help because of the data, but there was no device that made extremely high quality hydrogen, water and gas. So we're going to talk about the administration that you were talking about. The most effective ways that I've seen, and according to the data, is you drink water that has dissolved hydrogen gas in it. So we are using water as a carrier. So think about it this way. When you think of soda pop has gas in it, right?
Gotcha.
The carbonation. So it has gas in it. You can dissolve gases into water or a liquid. So this guy paired up with a bunch of like big time people. I mean, Japan did him a favor. He's Japanese, but I love how the Japanese work together. And he asked for help from different industries like Toyota, G-Shock, Yamaha. I mean, big companies. Because in order to make the best equipment, you needed certain levels of technology that didn't exist. This machine is a one-off. Like nobody's ever made anything like it. And to date, nobody can even touch it. It is the #1 machine in all of Japan for a reason, right? And so I guess if people want to look at the machine or read about it, they can go to the website. The official website is called holyhydrogen.com. And so this equipment makes both the water and it makes it a specific way, like little nano bubbles. It structures the hydrogen. It does all these crazy things. And it makes hydrogen gas inhalation. And those are the two ways that you can administer it. You drink the water and you can inhale the gas. And they both work good. But to be honest, water's foundational. So you always want to, everybody needs hydration. The body works and runs better when it's hydrated. And now you got magic water. When I say magic water, brother, I'm not kidding. This stuff does things that are just beyond logic. Like I've had doctors they can't believe what it does. And then the hydrogen gas inhalation is a little different because it goes into the lungs, it goes to your brain, the way it goes to your eyes and your sinuses and that kind of stuff. And so the device does both those things, which is actually, in my opinion, very important. You want to do both.
Now, how long does it take to, let's say, make the water, and how much hydrogen water does it make in a cycle?
All right. So this particular device does 1.5 liters of water. Okay. So 1.5 liters. In 30 minutes, it will fully saturate the water. So it's fully saturated with hydrogen. And again, an extremely high quality hydrogen. Like I'm not a fan, I'll just show you just an example because everybody has seen these things around, these little bottles, these little hydrogen bottles. I'm not a fan of these at all. For
Okay.
many reasons. There's many things that, in my opinion, they're doing wrong. They use plated metal. I don't think you should ever use plated metal when you're doing hydrogen. The way it directly electrolyzes the water, it doesn't make it as pure, in my opinion. And then the membranes that they use in these are not of the standard. I've seen some lab reports about what's in those membranes, and I'm not going to make any claims here, but I'll just say that I've seen things that I don't like. And
Gotcha.
so purity is extremely important. Quality is really important, and a device that does it right. And the device we're talking about actually is lab tested and certified. Every single machine gets lab tested and certified. Nobody does that in the industry. It's so bonkers. I still can't believe that they do it. It's because they want to make sure that you're truly getting the correct amount of hydrogen. And in order to test for hydrogen, it's actually very tricky, and it's expensive. You need special equipment that's actually from Japan, and it's really tricky to test properly. And so the company decided, we're just going to lab test them and certify them so that we know how much exactly they're making. So people are truly getting what they're paying for, basically.
I got you. Now, when it comes to the second part, the inhalation of it, what's the cycle? How does that work? Because I'm totally green when it comes to all this. So explain to me, as well as the listeners and the viewers, what that process is, because we went over the water creation standpoint, and now we're talking about the inhalation standpoint. But before we get to the inhalation standpoint, I had another question pop in my head. So this creates the water. So from the water standpoint, this creates does it create the water, or do you like put like a bottled water in and then it does something?
So
infuse it with the hydrogen. How does that go again?
Yeah. So when you want to remember, we're going to use water as a carrier. So basically, in this device, which I love that they did this, because a lot of people don't do this either, or companies don't do this. They designed the machine where you can put any water you want. It's not hooked up to your faucet where you're forced to use whatever water comes out of your faucet. I hate those machines.
Okay.
I want to be able to put whatever water I want to put there, right?
Right.
And remember, I did tell you 1.5 liters in half hour, but the machine can also do half a liter in 10 minutes and fully saturate it. So the more amount of water, the longer it takes to fully saturate it with hydrogen. So you can put any kind of water you want in it. I choose to use the cleanest water. So that's a whole other technology, and I show people how to clean the water to the highest degree, highest level. So you put any kind of water you want, and then it will fully saturate it with hydrogen. As far as the inhalation of it, you don't have to wait, half an hour or anything. You turn on the machine, and literally within 3 seconds, you can start inhaling the hydrogen gas. It's within seconds. And the gas flows, and you just breathe it in, and you can breathe in for half an hour. You can breathe in for 90 minutes. You can literally breathe it. I know there's a testimonial recently, actually. I haven't even done a video about it yet. Somebody who was inhaling it for like 5-6 hours a day, because you can just sit there on the computer and work, and you can be inhaling the gas and be getting all these crazy benefits. And this person used it in a very unique way, and the results were so dramatic that's why they sent me their testimonial. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And I was just working with somebody with autism, and they just went to see the doctor and looked at certain markers, because the results that they're getting for their child with autism are unbelievable also. So so many crazy things are happening in the world. Everybody's going to learn about hydrogen. I've been trying to preach it for, like I said, almost a decade. Or about it.
That's why you're here.
Yeah,
so
man.
we went over the inhalation part, and you can tell I'm curious about the carrier part, the water part, the drinking part. What would be your recommendation, or what is the recommendation of how much you're supposed to drink per day, or sitting, or how does that work? Is there a recommended amount, or is it just like how you normally try to get at least half a gallon or a gallon of water in a day? What would be the recommendation?
In my opinion, to get like a medical benefit, or the real true benefits, you would want to drink a minimum of this particular, because remember, depending on the equipment you're using, changes everything. So we're talking specifically about the equipment that I personally use. And that, again, it makes a difference. Because see, one of these bottles, how are you supposed to drink 1.5 liters when this thing makes just like tiny 8 ounces or whatever, 10 ounces?
Right.
So, and then those things burn out. Anyway, they're not that good. So basically, me personally, I do about 2.5 liters, no more than 3 liters a day. But to
Okay.
really get like the minimum amount that you'd want to drink to really get like what I would call a therapeutic amount in your body, 1.5 liters a day.
Okay. 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 So
Just
about
give you a rough idea.
1.5, a liter and a half. And would you continue to drink your, normal, let's say, bottled water kind of throughout the day, like, trying to still stay hydrated?
You can. Personally,
Gotcha.
the majority of the water that I drink throughout the day, well over 90% of it is just hydrogen water. Why not? If I have the device,
Gotcha.
then I'm going to do that.
Right.
Now, if I go somewhere, hydrogen gas escapes from your water very easily and very rapidly. In fact, hydrogen is so magical, it literally goes right through glass, right through plastic. It goes right through walls. It's like a ghost. It'll go right through anything.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
So if you put it in a bottle, it will go right through it. You will lose that hydrogen because hydrogen is so tiny. I mean, so tiny, which is actually why it's so powerful. It's so tiny, you can go right past the blood-brain barrier, go straight to the brain. You can have it go to every single organ and every inch and nick and cranny of your body. There is no place that it cannot go. Nothing can hold it back. It's like the spirit of God almost. It's like nothing can get in its way. It will go.
Right.
It just goes everywhere. And so basically, hydrogen is like that. So there's these special pouches that the Japanese developed. There's only one company in the world that makes them. And actually they are still, that company sells them, the Holy Hydrogen Company. They're a special pouch that is made of a special material that can hold in the hydrogen, not forever, because it will always find its way out, but it'll hold it much longer. So you can take the water with you throughout the day if you ever needed to.
Okay. So I think I probably know the answer, but for the listeners, how would you compare hydrogen water compared to alkaline water? And which one is better?
Okay. All right. So, well, hands down, hydrogen's easily better. Alkaline water became a very big fad. And if we look at data, remember, I'm all about data. I'm not about people's opinions.
Right.
So alkaline water, I'll tell you why it got popular and where really they went wrong. First of all, if we say alkaline water, it's too vague because there's different ways to make alkaline water. You can alkaline water. You can literally put baking soda in water and make it alkaline. Is that going to have all these magical effects? No, right? You could put certain minerals in water and make it alkaline, but you can also ionize it like the way that like Kangen machines do, these water ionizers, and you can alkaline it through ionization. Now, the truth is, and people are going to hate to tell you this, but this is long-term data from Japan. We know now, alkaline water done through ionization actually disrupts your stomach acids. So this is important.
Really?
As you age, and this is scientific fact, anybody can Google this. As you age, you make less and less acid in your stomach, okay? Which is not a good thing. This is the reason, see, our stomach acids have a function. They were designed to break down food so that you can actually absorb the nutrients properly. And there actually is also good for killing pathogens. So the acid can kill pathogens so they don't enter your GI system, okay?
Right.
This is the function of acids. This is why a young person, you can hand them a big steak. They could totally take care of it. Stomach acids handle it. You give an 80-year-old guy a steak, they're like, oh man, it's so hard to, digest this because they're not making as much stomach acid. So here's the problem with a lot of the alkaline waters. They actually disrupt the stomach acids and make them worse. So in long-term research that was discovered in Japan is that long-term usage of ionized alkaline water actually causes issues with digestion, issues with your GI, okay? But why did it become so popular? And I'll answer this question, is because the original alkaline water did show medical benefits in Japan. And so they were like, wow, this is where it all came from, by the way. It all came from Japan. They had studies. They're like, wow, why is this alkaline water so amazing? We can see it scientifically. Why is it amazing? And I'll tell you why it was. They were looking at the wrong thing. When you make alkaline water through ionization, you inadvertently by accident make some hydrogen. The benefit was not actually coming from the alkaline water. It was coming from the hydrogen.
Right.
And so the hydrogen is ultimately what was bringing the benefits. And that's when they shifted their research and began to focus on hydrogen. That's why the machine that I use, for example, when you dissolve pure hydrogen, like when you do it correctly, based on the data, hydrogen is actually pH neutral. So it doesn't really make it alkaline. It's pH neutral.
Gotcha.
And that's where the real benefit comes from. So hydrogen water is by far way superior to alkaline water. Alkaline water it's no contest.
hydrogen water for the win. Now, with that being said, how does, and if it does, how does hydrogen water assist in losing weight?
Okay, so this is another interesting thing. And again, anybody can Google it. As you get overweight, the body is so amazing. The body literally gets confused. This is how weird it is to be overweight. The body not only does it not like it, it confuses the way that the body functions. This is why people who gain weight all of a sudden have a hard time getting it off, because it disrupts your metabolism. And when you're overweight, what we recently discovered in the world of science is that it actually sends random inflammation throughout the body, just randomly, because it's all confused. Your body's out of whack. Your body's not designed to be overweight, and just like it's not designed to consume the levels of sugar that we consume these days, it's like in everything, right? And so what hydrogen appears to do, and I've seen it, I could tell you a story about an overweight woman that I worked with, multiple people really, that the hydrogen appears to go into the body and begins to bring balance and homeostasis back to the body. And once it begins to balance it out, get blood flowing, help with your hormone regulation, just begins to balance everything out. And one of the first studies that was ever discovered about hydrogen is the way that it affects the mitochondria. So it begins to help mitochondria run properly again. Everything begins to function properly, and people start losing weight. It's unbelievable. I mean, this woman changed nothing in her lifestyle. She was almost 400 pounds. She lost like 40, 50 pounds and didn't change anything except hydrogen. It's unbelievable.
Amazing. Now, you mentioned the machine that will create the hydrogen gas as well as convert your favorite, most preferred water into hydrogen water. And what is the name of this machine? And you mentioned the website where you can purchase it at. Can you go over that again?
Yeah, so the name of the machine is called the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium. That's the name of the device.
Gotcha.
And the official website, and you really do, I got to warn people because I've had too many emails about this. You really want to go to the official site. And the reason you want to go to the official company is because this is like the #1 machine in all of Asia. The Chinese have tried to copy it. So there's copycats. Right. And the problem with a fake machine is that it doesn't actually have the real technology. They don't have the high quality metal. Right. They don't use a special memory. Right. They don't have any of the real tech. And so, people try to find them and then they get screwed. So it's better to go to the official company, which is holyhydrogen.com. And then, you're getting something authentic. It comes with like a certificate of authenticity. It comes with a lab report because it was lab tested and certified. Everything is the real deal. And of course, the thing I like about the company is that they're so adamant about only doing the best. So they don't cut corners. There's a reason they didn't make this machine in China. I found out from the guy who was part of the designers. He's like, I don't want to make it in China because I want it to be done right. Right. So it was never made in China. It's hand built, engineered, and lab tested, all in Japan. And that's one of the reasons they became the #1 machine in the world or in Asia, because it was all done in-house and they spared no expense. They didn't cut any corners. And that's one of the reasons also that, that it's just such a wonderful machine. I like that they didn't think about the money. It was more about an honor. And the guy really wanted it for his daughter. He wanted medical grade hydrogen for his daughter at home. So you get a home device that is super affordable for everybody now. Instead of it being $200,000 or something to get hydrogen, you can make all the hydrogen you want, for cheap.
Okay. And we'll have that in the description, whereas the official website, no bootleg website or anything like that. On behalf of the Success Fitness family, I appreciate Greg, the Hydrogen Man, coming on the Success Fitness podcast. Let everybody know where they can reach you at, where they can contact you, your YouTube channel, and also we'll have that also in the description. But let everybody know where they can reach you at, whether you're on socials or website or wherever.
All right. And if you don't mind, one thing I want to say before I go into that, because this is a fitness podcast, the only thing I want to tell people is I think hydrogen is extremely important and almost nobody talks about it. So they're probably going to hear it here first. I think it's going to be a game changer for people who do anything that you get hit in the head. So if you do football, if you do boxing, if you do MMA, anything where you're getting hit in the head, because we know that causes trauma. And so, for example, in the future, you may have different issues. You might have a concussion. You might have different things. And hydrogen appears. And I think we're going to prove it in the future, but it appears to help so much with the inflammation that is caused and the free radical damage that is caused from being hit in the head so much, so that these athletes can have a life after sports. And so I really want to get that out there because I want people to know that this could be something potentially used for that. So that's one really important thing. And then the only thing, other thing that I will mention, because this is a fitness podcast, they did a study in Japan on, it was either semi-pro or pro soccer players. And in the world of science, when something shows to be effective 80% of the time or more, it's deemed a huge success. Well, they did a study testing these athletes' endurance with and without hydrogen. And with hydrogen, 100%, every single person improved their performance. And so they had greater endurance. So hydrogen clearly works. And those are the only things that I'll say in regards to athletics. But to now answer your question, if people want to find me, you can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called Uprising 144K. Everything is free. So you can subscribe for free, share it. If you want to help me get the word out, please share and subscribe. Everything's free. This is all about getting the word out about hydrogen. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me either under Hydrogen Man or Uprising 144K. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever. And you can find me on Rumble. So you can find me in all those places. But the main place that I always have the best data and the latest data and everything, it always goes on YouTube. So YouTube is like the main place. And so that's where you can really find me. And if people really want to email me or contact me directly, they can email me at uprising144k@gmail.com. And I do personal consults. I prefer not to, but if people just like, look, I really need your help, or, I need somebody, I know somebody who's dealing with this issue or medical issue, and they really want my help, I'll do that once in a while. But I prefer for them to check out the YouTube channel because I'm so busy these days. It's really hard to keep up with everything. A lot of people have been needing my help. And so, and I have a hard time saying no to people. I always want to help people because I hate when people suffer, and I believe strongly in loving your neighbor. And so, anyway.
Yes, and this is what, we're here for. Greg, the Hydrogen Man, came on the Success Fitness podcast to, I would say first, educate me first, because I had no clue, no idea what hydrogen is or was in regards to the applications and the benefits that it can have. Even when you were talking about in regards to fitness, I heard increased endurance. So now I'm just like, what? I definitely got to get me one of these machines because, we're always looking for an edge, right? And healthy edge as far as an advantage, and something that can, more naturally too, with so many just different products that we were talking about earlier. That is, hey, this, drink this. This is a quick fix or whatever. We're talking water here. This is about the most foundational thing that you can, put in your body. And I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So I appreciate you coming here and taking time out of your day to educate us. We'll have all your information in the description. And if it's not making you stronger, simply chant more weight, more weight, more weight. Thank you for coming on the Success Fitness podcast. We appreciate you. Be blessed, be prosperous in 2024. Peace out.